Hello and welcome to the Southbound Sports Show. I'm your host, Richie Leahy, here with my co-host, Matty B. I'm going to be honest, dude. Probably going to have a crazy show today. I added high tempo back onto the list because there's just so many things that I want to hit on. And I'm thoroughly annoyed with sports right now. And I know why the ratings are going down. It's because of some of the idiotic decisions that are just happening. So to start off the show, we're just going to go through our normal topics and then probably just go on rants. So if you don't want to listen, tune out. Don't really care. We did have a listener comment last week, and YouTube won't let me respond to it. Someone said that they preferred the name Redskins, Matt. Just Redskins. What would you believe about that? You know, it's not like they haven't had the name forever, and YouTube doesn't show it. Probably blocked it. So you can't even put your opinion out there. Weird.
Well, to me, I don't mind it, but there's also so much of the political backing saying that it's offensive. So I can see where they're now having this pressure to change the name.
Yeah, but if someone's going to say that that's their preference, like, why block it? That's what I don't understand. Because I think that's where there's so much misinformation right now that's like happened in the past week that we're going to talk about. And one of the big things like is coming out of like the Olympics. Is it going to happen? It seems like Japan doesn't want to do it. And they're starting to throw all these different rules in. And then you have a bunch of like other side stories about who can compete and where and what's going to happen. And it's almost like, I don't understand how this is going to go off without a hitch. Like there's going to be some major drama, and maybe they're just doing it for the television ratings. They're trying to see if it's just in the news nonstop for like 3 months before the ratings will be high. I don't know. But we're going to see. Because like I would hate for Japan to just get wrecked because of this. But who knows? They already postponed it a year. I think not having it would be a bad idea. But I honestly don't see the point of like having everything in one country anymore. Like, what's the point of that? Like, they could do regional pods, Matt. Like, you have soccer tournaments that are all over the world.
These damn pods. Just get them together and play.
Yeah, but that's the problem with the Olympics and why it's been a disaster like the last couple of times. You have everybody in one site, and then there's always so much drama where, we have to have 38 stadiums. What was it, Russia? That they couldn't even complete the stadiums in time. And so, like, they had all kind of issues. And then they're taking bribes, number one, which no one seems to talk about. And they're putting them in countries that, guess what? Can't support all those people. So just break them up. Like, pick apart, like, they already do it with, like, the Winter Olympics. Just have one Olympics. Why are you having a summer and a Winter Olympic? It doesn't make sense. Just do it nonstop. And with the delay, they're going to be close. I think the winter ones, right, it's going to happen right after, I think, right? 2022. So it should be back to back. I think they should just keep the schedule. Just take it every 4 years and start with the summer. And like I said, just drop the summer and winter terms and just have every 4 years, just like call it the Olympics, and it goes from summer all the way until February or whenever it ends. And just have the events where they make sense. Like if it's going to be snowboarding, guess what? You're meeting in a cold weather country. You're not going to try to have snowboarding in LA. Like, sorry, I don't care how many people are there. It doesn't make sense. Like, it doesn't make sense to have the Winter Olympics in a bunch of fake snow places when there are so many other places around the world that can do it. And then same with like the Olympics, like pick a place where the guys can run and do outdoors. The Tour de France is like another thing when I'm talking about all these people. You sent me the video. You want to explain what happened?
So a fan had a sign, and in the process of trying to show her sign on TV, managed to create like 100 bike person pile up.
And it happened because they let fans right beside the road. You can't even get into a game in the United States without going through like 3 metal detectors and like a pat down and then like the ticket guy. There's like 3 different checks like you have to do in most venues, especially if they're bigger ones. Maybe it's the smaller ones. I don't know. But you would not be able to stand right beside. That would be like me on the sideline tripping the player as he runs down the sideline, which coaches have done in the past. But I don't understand it. And they're saying like, oh, the tour is going to, or some of the bikers or the promoters are going to try to sue that person. I didn't know it was a woman. But what is that person a billionaire? Like how is suing them going to do anything other than ruin their life, which it's probably already ruined because their photo is everywhere and everyone knows that they destroyed how many careers possibly. I mean, it's not like you can just bike the Tour de France every year unless you're on steroids like Lance. How many of those guys aren't on steroids, which is the other thing? They're doing all this testing. Some people aren't allowed in. There was someone that said that they think that their body absorbs some like HGH from the pork they were eating. And I don't know, maybe that's true. Who knows how long these tests are? I just find it hard to believe that you're working so hard, you're already a top athlete, that you're going to be taking steroids and stuff right before the Olympics. But maybe I'm wrong. Maybe you're on the downswing. Maybe you had an injury. You're trying to battle back. I don't know. It just seems crazy to me. And so that's the number one thing I wanted to bring up, the Olympics and that Tour de France thing. Do you have anything on either of those?
To me, I think if you were gifted enough to be able to be one of the people that qualify for the Olympics, or that, I think it would be a step back to turn it into a pod system. Because if you go the pod system, then why not just everyone just do it at their own house and showcase your times on a Zoom meet? You know, like, I mean, that's basically what, like, the direction that you're trying to pull that into, where I think if I was talented enough to participate, I think part of it would also be the experience of just being around the other athletes from around the world and just seeing, you know, how they're training, what their different regimens are like, to see, you know, how people are different from other countries.
Well, I mean, I'm all for the countries getting together. I don't want a virtual thing because I've been doing some of those and I hate it. It's really weird and stale. And I could see how the athletes don't do it. But you got to admit that when you're an athlete in, like, let's say you're in some of the track events, they could have all the athletes from like a track meet, similar to like high school, meet in one location. And then all those events are in that place, because then you're involving a couple of different countries. It's not just like, oh, we're going to put this in Russia and they have to build 300 stadiums that they're not going to get done. Oh, okay. Well, what's going to happen when they're not done? Oh, we don't know. Like, I guess it's going to suck for the athletes here. But you can at least group them by sports and even maybe mix them up. Like sometimes put swimming where the running events are going to be. Like they have like all these other stuff. Like what else? They have like dancing and like gymnastics and stuff. Yeah, those are going to be indoors and things. So maybe you can pick a city and have a little bit of each. And so then like maybe the United States has a group where you can at least go to the Olympics. And I think it would give people more of around the world like a better chance to at least attend and have fans there. You put all these people in one city, there's not enough hotels to actually get fans in, and then it looks like shit on TV. I think if they broke it up a bit, and maybe even you could even spread it out across the country. Like if you picked like the United States, you could have certain events in major cities. I think they try to do it with soccer, where they would have like the last World Cup or something, where they had like some in New York, some in Maryland, some in Virginia, or no, I'm picking all states right beside each other, but like some in LA, some in Chicago, and they were all spread out. So if you actually wanted to attend, you could. I don't understand the Olympics where they're like, oh, guess what? It's in Tokyo. Everything is in Tokyo. And guess what? There's not going to be any place for fans to actually go and enjoy it. It just defeats the purpose. I understand 100 years ago when everyone traveled by train and like there was maybe radios that were announcing the winners. So yeah, you had to kind of be there. But come on, get with the times. At least make it a little bit more interactive. I keep seeing the fear-mongering things from like stadiums where football programs that someone was saying like football, there was a survey where football teams that had stadiums over 80,000 people were worried that they might have to contract like Notre Dame did. They had the luxury suites to cut down on seating because they're afraid that their fan base isn't going to want to go to the game when they can just watch it on television.
Oh, okay.
And so, like, Penn State, Michigan, Alabama, they all have a 100,000 stadium. What are they going to do? Is it really going to matter? I don't. If you make it an event where you actually have fans like go out and do stuff, I think lately, the past decade or two, they've been cutting down. Like, hey, you don't be drinking beers out here. Hey, don't be grilling out here. Is that a sanctioned grill? Are you in a grilling location? How many beers is that? Do you have? Like, they just keep taking and taking away. Where eventually, I think people are just going to get sick. Like, it's not going to be, hey, or sick of it. Not actually physically sick, but oh, do you want to go to a game? Too many rules. No, I'm out. And I've had conversations with people. It's like, hey, you want to go to the game? Can I do this? Like, what? You can't drink a beer out there. You can only have like 2 beers. Okay. You can't walk around with it. Can't be by the stadium. You have to be at least 200 feet away. Like, some stadiums have weird rules, and then it's just not worth it. And then you have to pay for parking. So if they want sports to be something encouraging, you have to at least make it fun to go to. So that's my beef with some of that stuff. Do you have anything else on that?
No, I mean, I think there is some merit to it, especially with what they're saying as far as the new strain of COVID that could be affecting people. I can see being cautious, but I think if you're housing the athletes there and they're being tested and you're restricting some of that in and out of the Olympic Village, everyone should be safe and be able to have that go off without a hitch.
Well, we're going to bring that up a little bit later, but let's continue. Hit in some Steelers stuff real quick. Hold on. So they ended up cutting DeCastro, and he was one of the only players I think that have made a Pro Bowl the last like couple years, 6 years or something like that. And they cut him because of injuries. And because of that, it opened up some cap space. So they added Turner. One of the Pittsburgh beat writers put out that the staff has leaked that they're upset with Kevin Dotson's conditioning, which then other people, even the trainer, like sent videos and stuff of like, hey, he worked out with me all off season. Like, what are you talking about? He wasn't trying hard to work out. So there's some weird offensive line stuff happening in Pittsburgh, and I don't like that. And I don't understand why the drama has to be there. Like, why Pittsburgh? It's not like a big market where they need this drama. And now you're starting to see the fluff pieces come out by like a couple Steelers blogs where they're talking about how Ben Roethlisberger set up to fail and how this season's going to be a failure. Very weird, Matt. Very weird turn of events that have happened in the past month. It almost makes me wonder if Ben started to do these voluntary workouts and he's looked like shit. Because that's the only plausible explanation. A month ago, everyone was out saying like, oh, Steelers, this is Ben's last chance. He's going to come out and his arm's even stronger than before. What's the difference, Matt? Just the voluntary workouts? What would have changed that had all the media mouthpieces like totally changed their story and are now cautious about the season? Because I've been calling it for months now. This isn't going to be a good season. What else could it be?
I think it's tempering expectations because for years it's been Pittsburgh's competing for a Super Bowl, and then they've fallen completely flat and losing in the first round, or not advancing to a championship game. So I think it's just trying to temper what are reasonable expectations. And one of the things that is always left out is that, yeah, there's been some turnover, but within the roster, you also have how many guys that missed significant amounts of time due to injuries. So, I mean, I think that getting the guys healthy is a priority, but also just the development of the guys that are currently on the roster is something that's important to help them grow.
And, I mean, I see your point, but some of the roster changeover and like the injury stuff, like trading down right now from DeCastro, I understand people are going to be upset about that. And if it's a nagging injury where he's not getting better, maybe they're trying to set up for the future. Just the timing makes me think that, all right, now's the time of the year where they kind of have a feeling of what they have, they need to be pumping the fans up to get ready for like the training camp stuff where fans are going to be hopefully involved, but we have that later in the show. I don't know if I've really seen a negative season of coverage like this recently. Like maybe whenever you had the AB and the Le'Veon Bell drama, but a lot of times it's been all...
My initial gut reaction of letting DeCastro go is terrible move. But then as you look deeper into it, and what was it, $15 million that came off the books by letting him go?
Yeah, but why does the money matter? Like the cap's already locked in and stuff now.
Well, the cap's locked in, however, just like having that extra money to be able to go after, like they signed Turner, and now can they get linebacker depth? Can they pick up, what other defensive backs or whatever things can they get to try to boost up the depth of their roster? I don't think that overall they're in a really bad place. Like, yeah, you could argue that the offensive line is aging now, but that's not anything that we haven't been going through the last couple of years anyhow, with different guys getting injured and moving guys around, and like that's been something that has been a growing spot for Pittsburgh. So that's not anything new to have line issues, but they're so paper thin at a lot of positions that they can't afford to get an injury, because if you get one or two guys injured, it definitely changes that dynamic of the team around.
And that's where you're looking at it, where are you going to compete? And I know they need some depth, but sometimes you just need to get lucky. Their team was undefeated last year. And I think having a competent quarterback down the stretch, one that they had hyped up a couple weeks ago, and now it's kind of mum, and they're saying like, oh, this season's going to be a disservice to Ben. Like, what's the only difference? It was Ben's poor play later in the seasons. Yeah, there were some injuries and stuff, but if you want to win a Super Bowl, you got to have a quarterback that's making smart decisions and's not turning the ball over in the playoff game and getting them down into like a 30-point hole or whatever that ridiculous game ended up being against the Browns. Like, some of that's directly on Ben. I mean, don't turn the ball over. What are you doing? Then you have the injury as an excuse if you play smart and you still lose, but I don't know. Just watching that game and bringing it back just doesn't sit well with me, and I think that they see that, and I think that the transition's on. I mean, I wouldn't have predicted that a couple weeks ago, but now that's how I'm feeling when you have different media mouthpieces, because a lot of these sites, they just say whatever the coaching staff tells them to say, and that even goes all the way down to what college like websites are with 24/7 and Scout and Rivals and all that. These big ones, just look who they're owned by. They're owned by the media companies. Who do you think tells them their info? The NFL directly. It's not like these guys are on the phone talking to agents all day. Like, give me a break. They probably get the same email memo that you can sign up for right on the Steelers thing. And maybe they get a special subject line where it says like, yo, you should say this. And that's what they write. So that's that. We'll get into some Steelers stuff later on. The Stanley Cup playoffs right now, Tampa Bay, I said they're going to pull through. That 7-game series kind of came out, and I thought maybe they would blow it. Maybe the Islanders are better than expected, but now Tampa Bay is going in. They're up 1-0 on the Canadiens, and what the hell happened to Vegas, where I thought they had a clear chance, and we talked about parity in like the NBA and the NHL and how the NHL, any team can win it. You have a 4 seed and a 3 seed in the Stanley Cup Finals. So it's just crazy. That's something that the NBA hasn't had. Even the NFL hasn't had. It takes like the extreme superstar Tom Brady going to one of those perennial losers and immediately elevating them to a contender. But in NHL, you don't have to even have that. It's not like Crosby went and turned one of those teams around. So, or Ovechkin. It's not like they jump teams and we're like, you know what? I'm going to win a cup over here. No. Any team can win. There's a lot more parity in the NHL system, and that's why people that say, oh, college football, don't expand. It's like, why? These other sports have expanded, and you have champions that are coming out of the wild card and these other lower seeds. Like, do you want an exciting playoff, or do you want the same old thing you've been getting? So, anything you have on the NHL?
No.
Because I'm continuing high tempo. I'm just going fast today.
Well, I'll tell you this. The one thing that I do have, now that I'm thinking about it, I like how nonchalant hockey fans and just like the reporting types are with the injuries that happen in some of these games. Because in one of the games, I'm trying to think of who the player was that got hurt. It was like a good player got injured, and there's like, well, that's just the way the physical style of the game is. Like, it was like one of the guys for Tampa Bay got injured. And I was like, well, that's just how the game's played here. It's just a physical sport. It's like, no, you can protect your superstars and not allow them to just get, like, thug bullied, and then you end up playing, like, crappy hockey.
Well, to be fair, that's what I'm wondering right now with the NBA, like, as I compare the two. The NBA has a unique chance right now to have lower seeds without a lot of superstars in their finals. And Phoenix and Chris Paul, I know that they had their little issues. Like, that ended up being a perfect scenario where I didn't even think he wanted to go there, but I can't remember off the top of my head. But the Clippers, they have their own mini superstar squad that they had Doc Rivers, remember? And they underachieved. Guess what? Get rid of the Andy Reid of the NBA. And now they could very, very easily be in their first finals appearance, I believe, because I think this is the first even Western finals they've ever been in. But they got to win 2 more games. I don't know if it's going to happen. On the other side, Atlanta, they're getting hot shooting from, what is it, Trey Turner from Oklahoma? Is that where that guy's from? Is that his name? No.
Trae Young?
Trae Young, yeah. Trey Turner's a baseball player. Getting confused. But I wouldn't even say he's out of nowhere. That's almost like, I think he was actually traded from the Mavs, right? And so they're hitting shots and they're putting Milwaukee, but I want to see, I tried to find like television ratings. The most recent I could find was like from early June where they were saying they're up. And I'm like, you still had a lot of big teams in like that time frame. I want to see what they're going to be after like the Nets were eliminated. What's this round going to be in terms of television ratings? Because it can't be good. I mean, maybe because you have LA and Atlanta, 2 pretty big markets. I don't know. If you get a Phoenix-Milwaukee finals, which right now that's who has the lead in both sides, I think the NBA is going to be very disappointed. But maybe I'm wrong. This is what the sport needs in my mind. And that's why I still think that if they were going to take the NFL approach, that like the idea I had where you try to pair your city with like a sister city, the NBA could work it out where some of these smaller teams or smaller market teams like Phoenix or Milwaukee that they're complaining about, why not pair them up with an international city that's much larger, or like a major city like a London in England, and then that way they have the international market, which can kind of bump up some of those numbers. Like, why not? If you're going to try something international, the only other thing the NBA could go the other direction would be to just have international teams, like where they team up with international things. But like, even when you're talking about having pods and stuff, like the international thing, I don't know if it's going to work. I'd like to see it for baseball, just maybe keep some of the talent at home. Maybe that would be bad. Maybe America would lose a bunch of times. Just like in like soccer or whatever. Who knows? Maybe we're not the best baseball playing country if you're constantly losing to the Latin American teams or the teams out in like Japan and Asian stuff. Who knows? Maybe that's why they don't want to do it. But I want to see what happens with this, because this is the first time the NBA has like a higher percentage in like 3 years, they said, because it had been dipping. So can it be a comeback, or did those numbers last year just skew it so bad that these numbers just look great? But anything else you have on those other sports?
No.
All right. I have, let's get into, I had baseball. I forgot about it. I put it back up. They started to go after foreign substances. So, Matt, I honestly think if you go back and listen to our show, I think this is 100% a setup from Major League Baseball, and nothing will convince me otherwise. Do you remember, and let me just recap first, because people might not be listening to this. I should actually put this as a topic for the show. But Major League Baseball, they've been cracking down on pitchers. They have umpires come out and investigate them between innings to see if they have any foreign substances. Basically, back in the day, you could throw a spitball where you spit on the ball. The spit would cling to the ball, and it would make it go crazy whenever you throw it, almost like a very fast knuckleball. Also dangerous because you can't control it, so they banned it. People have been known to take like sticky stuff, maybe some lotions, and put it in their hat, touch the ball, and you really wouldn't know if you're not, like, if your catcher is able to wipe it off or whatever. You might not know. I know the umpire touches a lot of the balls, but now they're taking guys out because they're saying that it's been in the game for a while, and that's why the hitting's so low. I think Major League Baseball kind of encouraged this last year, because do you remember when they juiced the baseballs?
Yes.
I brought it in, and I said, Major League Baseball changed the baseballs. They denied it. They said that there's no difference. Home run rates were going through the roof. I think that they had the bad publicity, and I don't think that they like sent out a memo. Like, there's going to be no paper trail of this, but I would imagine that they kind of just had like a backroom meeting where they said like, all right, well, we can't change the baseballs back. Well, what are you going to do? Hey, well, why don't we just not enforce some of our other rules? Wink, wink. And so they probably thought that they had the best of both worlds, where now you're going to see high quality pitching, which some people like pitchers' duels. I think a lot of them, you throw a perfect game, you're going to get high TV ratings. You have a game where a guy hits a bunch of home runs, you're also going to have good TV ratings. So they probably thought, oh, this could be perfect. Some teams with great pitching now, they can be back to being pitching dominant. And except they didn't realize how dominant they would be. And now you're getting games where, Matt, you're either hitting home runs or you're striking out. But that's it. Like, and guess what? Most players can't hit home runs. So they're just striking out. And the scoring is so low that now it's ridiculous. Like, I saw that Major League Baseball had, like, you know how sometimes there's a blowout and they have to like throw a position player as like the pitcher? There were two position players. I forget which teams they were, but they came in. One of them, I think it was against the Brewers, or maybe it was for the Brewers. He was pitching as like a relief. He gave up 10 runs in the inning. Like, that's how bad he did. And the umpire still checked him because he thought he was doctoring the ball. It's like, bro, if I'm doctoring the ball and I'm giving up 10 runs, I should just retire. Like, are you kidding me? So it's a complete clown show. And Major League Baseball, you want me to respect you. You had teams giving signals. You didn't really care. Didn't really do anything. You juiced the balls. Denied it. I mean, the facts are there. You can be like, coincidence? Oh, no. Wait, when did they start spitting on balls and putting lotion and stuff in them? Oh, you mean right after you juiced the baseballs? And the stats back it up? So if you look at the stats, and I know some people will probably throw them together and say, you're lying, look at them, they don't actually match up. I also saw a thing where someone had the timeline, Matt, of Garrett Cole, and where his stats with the Pirates matched up where this supposed, doctoring of baseballs happened. And wouldn't you know it, as soon as MLB started cracking down on it, his stats are just as shitty as when he was with the Pirates. Oh my gosh. Are you kidding me?
Imagine that.
Oh man, my mind is blown. My mind is blown. And guess what? Even right now I have it up. Garrett Cole vents about Major League Baseball's crackdown of foreign substances. Wouldn't you know, Matt? Wouldn't you know, that same timeline that I'm bringing up, that I don't even have up here on the show because I don't care enough. Major League Baseball, it's not going to get play. We're not going to get extra downloads because I'm bringing down Major League Baseball. No one cares about Major League Baseball. So it just makes me, I'm looking at it and it just makes me sick. And I'm tired of it. Like, why would I care if you don't enforce the rules? You don't put my man Barry Bonds in the Hall of Fame because you have a bunch of nerds sitting back saying, hey, you know what? I'm a writer and I've seen better players than him. His head got bigger. That, like, the argument, it almost makes me want to just take pictures of all the writers that complain about Barry Bonds and just show how fat their heads have gotten. Because I know they've all grown. That's my final comment on baseball. Matt, do you have anything else?
Nope, you hit it perfectly.
Put Barry in, put Pete Rose in, put the Black Sox back in. Who gives a shit? Like, embrace your history. Like, I don't understand it. Oh, well, we're not going to be having these cheaters in. Meanwhile, everyone's cheating. It's ruining the game. It's so embarrassing. Speaking of cheating, so my college segue is going to be into the Madden stuff that I brought in. But before that, there's been like some big talk. I know Coach O, I put out there with LSU. They said that he had no connection to the LSU investigation, some of the sex scandals, which I know I really didn't get a lot of pushback on the Michigan stuff. Was it last week we talked about that? Or maybe 2 weeks ago now. But wouldn't you know it, that after those Michigan football players came out and started to talk about it, there were more victims of the Ohio State doctor that came out that were in the news. So, like, it's just how many more people have been abused and the system just doesn't care. And then you have the LSU one where they were like, oh, Ed Orgeron, he didn't know. And now there's a lawsuit that says that he was told that by the former football players and that he did not report it. So if that comes out to be true, I don't understand how LSU isn't hammered by the NCAA. If I was any other school and the NCAA sent down a thing, I would just delete that immediately. Or I would just say, you know what? LSU's ignoring you. You've done absolutely nothing to them. Their basketball coach was caught on tape talking about paying players. Wouldn't you know it, Matt? He just signed another top basketball player this year. Do you think he changed? No. Why would he? It's not like LSU is a winning program. They're not. Didn't Shaq go there and didn't he say like he made more money in college? Like, wasn't that his joke? Like, I don't think it was a joke. I think most people know that that was true. And I know people will laugh and say, well, Michigan had the Fab Five. Ha ha ha. I'm just saying, who cares at this point? So if you're going to pay players and you're going to have all these other investigations, just be consistent. Like, if it comes out that they're hiding stuff and they've already hit a bunch of other allegations, how are they not giving the death penalty? They gave it to Penn State for the same exact reason. Right? But for whatever reason, Penn State fans, they show up and pack the stadium, but when it comes to supporting their school, they really didn't go to bat. They just wanted the statues of Jopa back. That was the only thing they rioted about, Matt. They could be making more of a stink about this and comparing and being like, yo, why are we giving this, but LSU and all these other schools have similar things, Baylor, and they're fine. And Baylor just won the national championship in basketball, so it really didn't affect their programs at all. I mean, they covered up a guy. Wasn't that the school that, like, the guy murdered a teammate or something? Like, come on, give me a break. So the other big news why I brought that up, the video game stuff, EA, they had their little conference thing, and I can even change topics here on the board. So they had talked about Madden and how they were going to have special features possibly for the Xbox because of its extra power or whatever. All bullshit. All bullshit. They're going to put extra features in the Xbox version and the PS5 version, but they're not going to put them in computers. Computers are more powerful than either of those consoles, so it doesn't make any sense why they would do that. And so I'm getting very low expectations for the NCAA football game that they're going to do, because I just don't think the NFL puts enough pressure on to make a game like matter. I don't think that they're in touch with what they need to do. So this is what they announced that the difference was, and I joked about it being like extra cards or whatever for Madden Ultimate Team. Matt, this is the extra features. Dynamic game day, where the stadium atmosphere and on-field momentum and home field advantages will change if you have one of the newer consoles. And the AI is supposed to be better. Haven't they been talking about that same stuff for the past 20 years? Like,
yes.
What is going to be different? I'm pretty sure NCAA football had home field advantage on the GameCube and the PS2, like that era, right? Didn't they have like some momentum thing?
Yeah.
I can't be making it up. So, and for them to not even put it on computers is a slap in the face, because as a parent, like if you're a parent and I'm going to give you a recommendation, why buy a console for Madden? Because like every year you're going to have a new thing. You're going to be locked in. You get it for a computer, you're kind of there. You don't have to pay for online. If you get a PS5 or an Xbox right now, you still have to pay the $60 a year online fee for the PlayStation Network or the Xbox Live, even though Xbox might be changing the name of it. It's still the same thing. You have to pay extra if your kid wants to play online with his buddies. Instead, if you get them a laptop that maybe they can use for school, they can play the same game. But EA and NFL, they're blocking it for whatever reason. Like, it should very easily let kids do their own thing, or like put it on the Switch or some other things. I dug out an old version of like Madden NFL for the old Nintendo 3DS, Matt, because I thought maybe I'll finally have Madden that I can pull out on the go. They didn't even have franchise mode on it. You couldn't change rosters. All you could do was play through one season. Not even with I thought, you know what, I'll play through a season. I wonder if they have a fantasy draft, because if they had a fantasy draft at the beginning, which they've had in Quarterback Club 98, like on the 64, over 20 years ago. Like, it's almost a joke at this point.
That's an impressive call.
What?
That's an impressive call out.
What, NFL Quarterback Club?
Quarterback Club.
Yeah, I think it went back to like 96 maybe, on the Game Genesis or whatever. And so if you don't play video games, you don't know what I'm talking about. But I know your kids definitely do. And so it's big for the NFL because they keep saying about how they're losing younger viewers. This kind of stuff where you're getting, like if you're playing Madden, you could draft the guy in a fantasy draft, pick him up, some no-name scrub. They kind of have it with fantasy sports now, where you can draft the guy and kind of follow him and maybe become a fan of him if he leads you to a championship. But Madden, you can directly play as them. And so I think it gives you a little bit of a better connection. And so, like, why not try to push it? It's just weird that they do this. And then the other news was the NCAA football one. So they leaked out that it's going to be coming in 2023, they think. There's already states like Ohio that's trying to push out their player likeness thing that's supposed to take place in July here. I don't know if it's going to pass or whatever. I haven't been following it. But one of their Congress members came out and was like, we have to beat Michigan. And so as Michigan's governor was going around bragging about how they were going to have theirs in place and be one of the first states to do it, it doesn't even come into place until like 2023 or something like that, 2022. So Ohio's like, no way, we're definitely going to do it right now. We'll have it start next month. It's like, all right. Maybe then the NCAA is going to have to do something, because that Supreme Court ruling that I talked about, I got some more information that came out, and it does look like it's really pushing the NCAA back, saying like, you can't stop it. You can't stop from paying players. You have the EA Sports thing. Are you going to let players make money off this? They started to leak out some of the contracts. One of the guys that had the actual contract, he said, like Ohio State wasn't in it. He said that the deal was finalized by a bunch of schools in January. Guess what? Ohio State, for all the posturing they're doing about paying players and trying to rush it through, they weren't included in that deal for the video game. So it shows you
because they're already just paying people as it is.
Yeah, but that just shows you how out of touch they are. And if they're not in it, how many other Big Ten schools are not going to be in it? And then they're going to be like, hey, why isn't our recruiting good? Because it's basically just like a recruiting textbook, Matt. You can take your school and join Ohio State and become Ohio State and bring them to a national championship on the video game. Guess what? You might want to go there if you're a top recruit. If you're going to be a top recruit and you're going to play video games, guess what? Which they do. 100% they play video games. They're not going to be able to play as that team. That's going to knock them down a peg in my book. Like, I honestly think that that's going to hurt certain schools. And so the ones that don't are going to be trying to jump on it last. And so, like, I had predicted that it's going to be the Big Ten. They're always behind on things like this. I'm not surprised that Ohio State's not in it. As soon as Alabama and Clemson have guys on the front cover, I guarantee Ohio State's right back in line. They probably even take a pay cut off it. So, and I hope this guy, they'll probably never, ever be able to leak out which team signed. But he said that there were 4 tiers where they're saying, like, if you're the top tier, you're going to make more money. And then it goes down by the 4th tier, which would probably be like the smaller schools that don't go into bowl games anyway. So, but I just want the customizations. If you're going to make a football game, make it so that I can change conferences, change schedules however I want, and don't put a cap on how many years you can play. Because I think they started to do that. I don't know if they did that recently, but there was like a thing before where you could only have like 5 or 10 years or something like that. It's like you could just be able to keep playing nonstop with your team for as long as you want. Like, what's the difference? So, any thoughts on that you have?
Well, your comments about changing things made me laugh because I saw a meme on Twitter that was like, Nick Saban's hit the level at Alabama that typically you get bored because your recruiting is so good that you end up just leaving and picking a different team. It's like, there has to be a little bit of truth to it that he basically gets his pick at this point of any prospect that he wants, and they're competitively in the playoffs every year, and it's just insane. He's just living out the video game scenario,
and it's only going to get worse because, like, I had a story that I brought in that I wanted to talk about here on the show where, starting with the video game, they're saying, like, oh, players aren't going to be able to make money off this. Like, whatever the cut is in that contract, the schools are going to get so much, they're going to get the players out there. But I know firsthand that you can go ahead and make money if you're an athlete and you want to just go ahead and do it. And, like, I don't even think I've ever told you these stories, Matt, but back when I was playing baseball, it's very similar to like the UCF kicker that was doing trick shots on YouTube. But in a small area, if you go to a place and you're going to play sports, there are so many local businesses right there that will give you money, that will sponsor you. And so, like, even in high school, we did a thing where we wanted to update our uniforms. And, like, I hate school fundraisers. I think they are pointless. And it basically is just another way for the parents to come home and give their kid extra money for the school. It's like a donation. Like, oh, hey, we're selling hoagies. Who do you think's going to buy them? Like the parents or like their close family? And that's it. So they were trying to do us like, oh, yeah, you should raise money if you want new baseball uniforms. So, dude, I just started asking. I set up. I had like a little bucket. Actually, it was a protein shake container, Matt. I cut a little hole in the top. And set up.
There you go.
And just started to ask at school. I sat down at school lunch, donations for new uniforms. And of course, I never got it cleared because I thought, hey, you said fundraiser. I didn't know the school had to sign off on it. So I raised a bunch of money for our uniforms, me and a couple other guys on the team. I just asked it around town or whatever. of course, I get called into the AD's office. They're like, what the hell are you doing? I said, I thought we wanted new uniforms. I'm getting the money right here. And they're like, you can't use this money. You have to give it back. I'm like, how the hell am I supposed to give money back from donations? I didn't take a list. It's like I have a ledger. I'm not Al Capone. So, what? So they're like, yeah, blah, 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 all this stuff. So we get the new uniforms, whatever. I get yelled at, never to do that again. And when I went to college, I had the same idea because you're broke. And they're like, hey, yeah, we're going to, here's all your fees. This is what you're going to get. Here's your stipend or whatever. So you're getting money. So they were trying to do something like that. I forget what we were doing. I don't know if it was for the Florida trip or whatever, but I took out there, and my roommate could probably vouch for this. We went and did the same exact thing. I said, he's like, hey, how are we going to get money for some of the extra stuff? I'm like, dude, we can just go ask for it. So we got all dressed up in our baseball stuff. We swear right out with, dude, we went out to a couple businesses nearby. People were lapping it up. They're like, oh, yeah, we'll sponsor your baseball team. Just giving you money right there. And so, we take it back. And I'm like, actually, what happened, one of the businesses gave us some shit. They must not have been a fan of our team. They're like, yo, why you guys collect the money? I'm like, oh, we're getting new uniforms and we're doing something else. And they're like, is this solicited or this is unsolicited, blah, blah, blah. So, of course, they call the school. So I get back into the AD's office. They're like, yo, what are you doing? I'm like, I'm getting the money. Getting the money. I'm going to get us some sponsors. This is a go-getting attitude. I don't understand why both athletic directors were very negative towards Matt. I don't get it. I know if one of your players was doing something like that, you'd probably be pretty upset too. I think the main thing that they were worried about is I was skimming money, which I didn't really care. I gave all the money in. I turned it all in. We got new uniforms in both scenarios. I know I wasn't the only one in college because it's a much bigger processing deal. But I do remember thinking, damn, this is easy to just be getting hundreds of dollars back for basically just asking. So if you're an athlete and you're going to be playing at one of these bigger schools, and I wasn't at a big school, maybe it was the only team in the area that had a baseball team within however many miles. So maybe that factored in for some businesses where they're like, hey, yeah, you know how I bet if I was selling even spots where if you go to a minor league baseball team or game and you see the outfield where it's post of slot, where it's an ad. Who do you think's getting that money? It's not the players. They're eating bread sandwiches with a piece of meat on it and cheese or whatever. Sometimes they don't even get the meat. We saw the pictures. We talked about it. So the owner's getting that money. At least in college, now you have a thing where it's saying, hey, one of the teams, I think it was Florida, that your team, the Gators, right? They came out and they were like, hey, you can't get paid by outside boosters or businesses. And I thought, why the hell would anyone commit there? That almost is like a suicide pledge for your recruiting class. Because I'm out there, I'm telling you, hey, now you own your likeness. You don't even have to have the baseball gear. You don't have to wear the baseball shirt and say that you're even on the team. A lot of times the businesses just know who you are. So you can go in and guess what? You can get a free meal. It's not about just I think a lot of people are missing the point where they think, hey, they're just going to get $10,000 and that's not going to matter. It's not even that. You can't even take meals. If you eat a cookie or whatever that's over the limit, you could lose your scholarship. So now some of these guys, they're not going to have to do anything. And so I think it's out there where once this starts rolling, if the NCAA, even if they try to regulate it, there's going to be no regulating it unless the school's going to have watchdogs on these people. Because yo, you're asking me for money for fees or whatever, and then I know I'm going to get the money back. Why not just go ahead and get it donated, getting that taken care of, and then I'll get the money with my stipend or whatever that's going to come to me anyway. It's kind of like the run around the NCAA gives you. So that annoyed me from my experience, and there's a way around it. I still have that jar mat. and I still have some coins in it. Not from either of those donations, but it's a reminder that it works. It works, and these guys are going to get paid. These guys are going to get paid whether they play rugby as a club team or anything else, because I even had a club on campus where I started like a music club, had a handful of sponsors immediately, brand new club. No one knew my name. I played a couple concerts. That was it. Got a bunch of sponsors. So if you're playing sports and you already have the media hype built in, even if you're like the backup third baseman, there's always going to be a car wash or something that needs a spokesman. You can do it. You can be that spokesman. You just have to reach out to them. Say, hey, like I do this for the thing. I do a spot for you for $500 or $1,000, whatever you want to do, and see what's the worst thing that can happen. They say no. That's my final thought on it. Matt, do you have anything to add? Do you have any stories like that?
No.
See, should have went out there. Played some sports, got some cash. That's how you get it. I bet Nick Saban would do that, except he's probably dropping the cash. The big topic that I wanted to talk about, though, kind of tied in with the NCAA, and it goes to both of the last two topics. So if we go a little bit longer, I put this on at the end. I try to do the high tempo to get through most of our other topics. But NC State baseball, we talked about it. They made the World Series. I'm watching them. They're doing very well. Didn't have a loss. They're going into they're in the quarterfinals against Vanderbilt, and all they have to do is win one game. The game is about to start. I think it was like slated for 2 p.m. or whatever. An hour before the game, I get a text that, hey, the game is off. And I'm like, okay, why? That's weird. They were like, NC State had a player test positive for the coronavirus. And I was like, okay, all right. I know that they're doing the tracing thing or whatever, so they're going to delay and do the tracing, and so they're going to see what happens. They had all of their unvaccinated players sit out the game. They made NC State play with only the vaccinated players, I believe, which came out to be, I think, 13 people. Did I text you the numbers? So they had like 9 position players and then 4 pitchers. And it's my belief that they let the vaccinated players play. So NC State almost wins that game. I think they lost by like a run or two. And they had a very good chance with bases loaded to go to the finals. The NCAA probably looked at that and was like, no, too close. What if they win the second game? So they eliminate them. At 2 a.m, the NCAA makes a call that they found 4 vaccinated players that had played in that game also tested positive. And my thought process is, why are you testing the vaccinated players? Because in their guide, they said that if your team is vaccinated, you won't have to be tested. And so, like, I understand not making the vaccines mandatory or whatever, because every state's different. But that seems like a pretty fair trade-off where if you're vaccinated, you don't get tested. But if you're vaccinated and they're still testing you, that's where it just doesn't make sense to me. Like, they made Chris Paul sit out in the NBA. I mean, that could have cost his team a trip to the finals. Like, why are you testing him? Who is that saving? The vaccine is either effective and safe, and it's going to make it so that he's not spreading the virus, or it's not. Like, I don't understand what the difference is. Like, you're either believing that the vaccinated players are safe so you don't have to test them, but then yet you're still testing some of them. And on top of that, they're letting thousands of fans in, which is my biggest complaint, because NC State did everything that they could. They had all their players arrive. They've been playing games on their location, Omaha, Nebraska. So the only place they could have come in contact with someone with the virus, Matt, is at the stadium, really, or in the NCAA controlled environment, right? It's not like they're flying back here to Raleigh and the kids are going out clubbing, right?
Well,
go ahead.
One of the biggest issues that I had with that NC State issue was that they just pushed Arkansas right along. There was no testing for any of the players. There was no nothing. It was just like, no, NC State's out. We're moving, advance.
Yeah, you mean Vanderbilt. Because Vanderbilt they 100% lucked out. So they would have been the third team, or they would have had the third game where they're going to lose a pitcher. They're playing Mississippi State, I believe, that was in that third game with Texas, so they're already down and tired. Vanderbilt got a free warm-up game against NC State's, I don't want to say backups, but I mean, you're playing at half squad. You see the split squad preseason games in Major League Baseball, Matt, or spring training, whatever they call them. Like, they're not pretty when you have half a squad out there. So that's basically what they made them play. And I almost feel like that was just a bullshit thing where they knew they were going to kick them out, but they knew it would be bad optics if NC State was eliminated without a loss. Because at that point, NC State had already beat Vanderbilt, and Vanderbilt didn't have, I mean, NC State would have been in. I mean, they were the top seed at that point. They had 2 games, like they had to lose twice. So you could still even look at that. I don't see how if Vanderbilt wins, there's not an asterisk by that championship at all. It goes back to, I had the same complaint with Michigan hockey, where I think they were like, this was before like some of the vaccine stuff was widely available, but they had like a contact tracing issue or something. And so they're like, nope, you're out. VCU basketball, I said like, oh, maybe it didn't really matter. They weren't that high of a seed. But I mean, that division or that like regional or whatever ended up being a mess. How do you know they couldn't have been in the Final Four? And there were a couple other teams that had just got screwed by this whole thing. So what I just don't like is the lack of transparency and then just lying about it and making up the rules as you go. Like, what's the point of having all the protocols and stuff if you're not going to follow them? You're not testing the fans, so why are you testing the teams? Like, why? I want to hear a statement. Why is it important to test the teams, Matt? If you're not testing the fans or anyone else, why are teams still being tested?
Right.
Because you're saying the vaccine's safe. You already know the guys were vaccinated. You tested them anyway. And then, because I had the statement by the athletic director and even the UNC Health Board, which, you know, if UNC Health from Chapel Hill is coming to their defense, that there might be something to it because, like, they're heavy rivals down here. So they came out and they were saying that it's very rare for, even if you were vaccinated, for it to come back as positive, kind of like hinting that maybe the test wasn't accurate because you're having 4 of them come back as positive, where it's rare, where they were saying like a very small percentage has that happen once you're vaccinated. Yeah. So, okay, now you have that, and the NCAA, like, they already made the decision, like, okay, you know what? Game over. Vanderbilt, you're just in. And to me, that's just a bullshit thing. Like, you're putting Vanderbilt in, and they had, like, it was like they just swept through their regional, and so they had a pitcher advantage in the finals now because that pitcher didn't have to throw that third game in a must-win scenario. So, I mean, and plus NC State was playing so hot, you can't convince me that they would have lost. They almost won with their split squad, and they had a ton more hits. They just left a lot of people on base, but when you're playing with a team that is half there, you don't have pinch hitters and stuff. How do you know a pinch hitter doesn't hit a grand slam? You don't. They got royally screwed, and I can't wait for this to be over. I don't understand the testing. Like, I don't think they could answer that. Who is it keeping safe? Like, why are you still testing them? Is it for the player safety? Because I know I think we had talked about it. We joked about Ohio State when they came out with like the myocarditis or whatever it is, where like there's heart issues for coronavirus, and then the numbers ended up not really matching up. But now they're saying that it might be true that the vaccine is spiking it in men or young boys, where that's why they think the holdup for some of the vaccine for like the teenagers hasn't been fully pushed through yet, because they're seeing that myocarditis thing come back. And I hope I'm saying it right. So if you're having that, you can't be saying, okay, well, maybe the vaccine's not safe for your heart, but why are you still testing them and then pushing for it? And then even when they do get it, you're still penalizing them anyway. And that's where, like, the NCAA, at this point, just blow them up. Get rid of them. I hope the Supreme Court just absolutely crushes them, because it's not a level playing field. Vanderbilt's, they're reigning champs. I bet if it was reversed, and everyone keeps saying, well, Vanderbilt was fully vaccinated. NC State guys were getting dinged and they were vaccinated. Why can't you answer that? Everyone always dodges it or changes the topic when someone brings it up. Like, oh, well, the whole team should have been vaccinated, then they wouldn't have had that problem. But it's like, okay, but why test some? Why not test the fans? Like, why have the fans there then? Aren't the fans putting the players at risk? Are you really trying to protect the players? Because that's a no. That's a no.
Oh, you easy. Now you're going to start affecting the financial stuff.
Well, Matt, that's why they had to play that game. Because they already had it. That's my other conspiracy. They already had the 2 games locked in. That contract had to be played for the ESPN contract no matter what. The 3rd game is always optional. They could cancel that 3rd game. Even if NC State would have won, they could have very easily made them forfeit and had Vanderbilt go on anyway, because their contract with the TV would have went through and they would have got that money. If that game's canceled, they owe ESPN a game. What are they going to do? Because when ESPN bought it, they knew it was a best of 3. They knew that 3rd game might be void. And so that's my other thing. Maybe the NCAA looked at it that way and said, you know, we really don't care what's going to happen. NC State's going to be eliminated anyway, but we got to play this game. Like, there was no decision there that was made in the safety of the players. And so if I was NC State, I'd claim a national championship, to be honest.
Raise the banner.
Raise the banner, because you didn't lose. And it could even just say national champs did not lose a series. And guess what? The NCAA couldn't say shit about it, because guess what? They didn't lose. And they could even say full squad, undefeated, because that's also true. They only lost when they had the split squad. They didn't lose that series. So that's my thing. That was my biggest beef. And now getting into the NFL training camp locations, I saw some writers in Pittsburgh were also upset about this. The NFL announced, and I knew I'd circle back around, the protocols for the NFL training camps. The Steelers now have to do it at the Heinz Field Training Facility and the UPMC Rooney Sports Complex. They are not allowed to do it in Latrobe, not at St. Vincent. And so now they're saying, like, the Steelers practice there raises $34,000 in 2018 for that area, for the Greater Latrobe School District and St. Vincent and stuff. And so in 2019 it was basically 21,000. So you're saying between 20 and 30,000 they're raising for that area, and now the NFL is going to say, you know what? No, we can't do that. But we can do all this other stuff and have all these other promotions and have the teams do all this other crazy stuff. And it's like, oh no, the players have to be vaccinated or they have to be testing. It's like, why? Why? Who are you protecting? Is it the coaches? Because they could get vaccinated at this point. I just don't understand it. And so now you're hurting the fans because they can't go to the thing, and you're not really giving them an avenue. And this is the very same thing that I talked about earlier in the show. You push away fans. I know some people aren't into the video game stuff, but it's a very big thing, because in terms of recruiting, getting young fans and keeping them engaged with the sport, why would I tune in? Are you going to be able to meet the players? No. St. Vincent was a big autograph thing, and where you can meet the players. I remember meeting Hines Ward there and thinking, damn, you're small, dude. I thought Hines Ward was much bigger. He's more your size, Matt. He's very jacked. I thought, you are pretty jacked though. So, but I mean, just looking at that and seeing like some of the players and just talking to them, because some of them will come through and just talk, especially if there's not a lot of people out yet. And like some of the other players where some of the fans, like they only know the big guys anyway. So you get like a Randall L or whatever. Someone might notice him when he's playing, but they don't recognize him in person. So you can spark it up with someone like that. Get a good convo going while you're there. See what they're up to. I mean, if you're a young kid, you can even ask them about like working out. What do they recommend? Like, what do you like to do? What do you do for speed training? You got a guy, you do those bands. You can ask all kind of training questions and stuff, but not anymore. Matt, wouldn't you rather get training stuff from an actual NFL player, or would you get it from like Joe Sixpack down at the local gym?
I'm going to support I'll support the local business.
Even
from
even Rocky Balboa didn't want to take advice from his local gym. That was the whole point of the first movie. They didn't want him. He didn't try hard enough, but he didn't want to do their weird things. And then he had that training montage when he finally bought in. Unless I'm missing the point of the first movie, Matt.
What it boils down to is just follow the montage.
Yeah, so that's the main thing. Like, you're not going to have the connection with the players, even if it's like something stupid like that. Just asking them, like, "Hey, what topping do you like on your pizza?" Because that would probably catch them off guard. And then who knows? You might be best friends. So you can't do that now. You tweet that at them, and then some other handler, probably not even them, is like answering, and then you don't know if it's the right answer. But in the heat of the moment, in person, you're going to get the real answer. Unless they just ignored you. But I don't know. It's just, the entire thing just doesn't make sense to me. I just want more transparency. Make it transparent. I don't understand why they can't just do it. Make the rules, and if those are the rules, everyone knows them. Major League Baseball. Are you juicing balls? Are they allowed foreign substances? Why are you doing it right now? Oh, because of the game. It was affected. People stopped tuning into your shitty thing where no one was scoring and the ball was going crazy. Oh, well, hurry up. We need to fix it now. And now there's a big controversy, so maybe more people will watch. I'm not going to watch. But are you going to keep people out of the Hall of Fame? Because that's what I want to know. You keep my man Barry Bonds out. If you want to get me back as a fan, you put Barry Bonds in and you have him do a tour talking about, hey, he's the best hitter I've ever seen in my life. Ever seen in my life. People were so afraid to throw to him, Matt, they would just walk him. I saw, and maybe I'm misremembering, but I'm pretty sure I've seen Barry Bonds get walked with bases loaded because they were afraid he would hit a grand slam. I'm sure some stat guy can find that out, but they were just like, intentional walk him. And I thought, damn, they're giving up a run. I remember watching, I think it was John Smoltz throw to Barry Bonds, and the Braves were so close to winning, and I thought, oh, great, here we go. Braves are going to win this game. And there was a guy on first base, and the announcer was like, they should just walk Barry Bonds. And I'm like, well, they only need one more out. Barry Bonds golfed this ball probably into the ocean. Probably hit it so far that he just went in, and I thought, God damn, that announcer was right. Why did they walk Barry Bonds? And then it clicked for me. It made so much sense. You walk him. The next guy has you have three bases then. One hit could tie the game, but you can't lose with the Barry Bonds monster home run. And then John Smoltz just looked like he was defeated. And next thing you know, he's in the booth, Matt. I think that's what broke him.
He did get defeated.
It hurt him so bad, but he was like, Barry Bonds was so good. Why did I do that? Why didn't I just walk him? I don't even know who the announcer was. Was it Oral Hershiser? They came into the league around the same time, I think. And he's like, John, don't do it. You're going to have to be in the booth with me. Don't throw the ball. But no other hitter. I don't care if it's Mike Trout, if it's whoever, Bryce Harper. No one comes close to Barry Bonds. They're not getting walked with the bases loaded. The only other guy that I think could come close possibly is Pujols. Pujols, how do you pronounce his name? It's been a while since he's been in the league, right? That's your guy. But he's no Barry Bonds. The announcers are not talking about walking him when he's at the plate. And Smoltz had 2 strikes on him too. I remember it was in the dirt, and I thought, man, Barry Bonds chased that. This is out. He's gone. And they were like, I still think you should walk him here. And I'm like, he's going to strike him out. Nope. So that's my final thought for this cheating stuff. Just make it fair. How many home runs could Barry Bonds have hit if he wasn't walked that year? I'm sure he was walked 100 times. Maybe I'm wrong, but he had 70 home runs, didn't he? Easily could have been 100. Easily. I would go, when was that? I don't know if I was of age, but I remember being at the bar where everyone stopped and looked at the screen because they thought he was going to hit a home run. The whole bar would be like, he's up. And then everyone would just turn and look because Barry Bonds was at the plate. I've never seen an athlete do that besides Tom Brady now. And that's what, in the Super Bowl or in the playoffs? It's not like they're tuning into Tom Brady week 3 against the Jaguars. But maybe this year they will. Anything else you got on that?
Well, I think as far as the training camp stuff, it makes sense from a veteran player standpoint that you don't want to stay in Latrobe. You want to be able to go to your house and sit in your cryo chamber, your personal cryo chamber with your trainers and doing all that stuff and not being cramped in a dorm room for however long. I know that that's historically been what the Steelers have done, and the traditionalist in me says that they're missing out on it. But I think as an organization, Pittsburgh's capitalizing on the fact that due to the pandemic, they didn't have to go to Latrobe last year, and it's hey, it's easier just to keep the veteran players can go home to their families, and there's less planning that they have to do to have them stay out there. So just do it at the UPMC complex, and it restricts some of the access.
No, it's almost like a vacation, Matt. I think the opposite. As the older I get, maybe when I was younger, I would think that I'd rather be at home. But I honestly think most people are lazy. Let's put that out there. I don't have a stats to back that up, but I will say that most people are lazy.
People are lazy.
And they don't want to get up. I don't care if they're working at home. You might be more productive because you're cutting out the travel time. But guess what? You're in the NFL. It doesn't matter. I think just getting into that mindset, almost like the Rocky Balboa, he had to travel to Russia to get ready to fight Ivan Drago. I mean, other than that, he was getting soft, Matt. That's your average NFL player late in their career. They're not all Tom Brady. Tom Brady, yeah, I think he'd be fine working out at home, right? He deserves it. He can do whatever he wants. But the average guy, like I said, most people are lazy. You have a small percentage of players like T.O. that's going to be working out hardcore, and you know that guy's going to show up. And I feel bad that he never won a Super Bowl because I think he deserved it. And I think the media focused on the wrong things with him, much like Barry Bonds, my other guy. But I will say this. Some of those other players, maybe they're not good in social situations. So as a coach, you kind of have to balance it. But I still think the pros of having everyone in one location, they're all hanging out, they're all bonding. And that's going to be your real conditioning start because with two-a-days, it's basically like the two-a-days of NFL. Is that effective? Yeah. That's why everybody does it. They know that if you do the small bursts where you're learning and then you do conditioning in the morning and then conditioning in the evening, that your body can start to heal and that you'll make some big gains. Where if you're at your own thing and then you're going to go home and you're going to be like, oh, I'm so tired, you're not going to have the same stuff. You're not going to have the staff there. You have to go into the thing. So you're going to already be at the facilities already. I still think just going home gets you back into that off-season mindset where when you're getting ready for the season, if you go to a different place, you're going to be better. That's why people even writers, they go to remote cabins or whatever to get away to kind of break that mindset and get out of their routine. So that's my point. And I think that other people look at those other scenarios and they think that it all makes sense. Because otherwise, why would they be doing it for that long? I think it goes back to St. Vincent, and I wish it was this year. What do you think? You have any rebuttals?
I mean, I think that as a fan, it makes sense to do that because it gives a lot of access that you normally wouldn't have, and being able to watch those practices and doing a lot of those fan experience things are something that I think is really special with the Steelers. But if I from the athlete perspective, obviously a lot of them run into issues where they're using their own trainers and they're using because they're not trusting the people that are at the facility. Like, they've come into the league, they have the athleticism and the talent to get to the league. I think you kind of trust them to do what they need to do to be ready to play.
There's so much turnover that I think that you need that structure. And so I have a challenge for people that are listening that I think would...
Don't be lazy.
No, I honestly think, so go ahead and just try to do 100 sit-ups every day this month at home. And I guarantee that you will not do it. Because 100 sit-ups takes you, a couple minutes, tops. You can even do crunches where you can just do it while you're watching TV. But I guarantee you do about 10 of them and you're like, you know what? Wait, did my phone just buzz? And you're like right back into your old routine. Oh, wait, my couch spot's looking pretty comfy right now. But then, if you fail, go walk outside. Like if you live in a building, an apartment, or in your neighborhood, go walk somewhere outside of your house. And I know there's going to be maybe a sidewalk. Maybe there's just a space in the woods if you live out in the middle of nowhere where you go and then go do your sit-ups out there. Guess what? I guarantee you would finish all your sit-ups because you already made the effort to go somewhere else compared to if you're just trying to do them in your living room. It doesn't even have to be very far. I think just having the mindset of being somewhere different, somewhere outside, not locked in your house. Plus, how many athletes really have their own trainers versus just a couple buddies? I mean, LeBron James, one of the most highest paid athletes, he still hangs out. All his partners are all his old friends, Matt. It's not like he has a deep bench of actual people with training licenses and stuff that he hangs out with.
Fair enough.
Anything else you have for Final Bell?
No, I got nothing else this week. We covered, I think, just about everything.
Well, I did get some crazy things this weekend. I got some poison ivy, dude. Brutal. I'm wearing these shooting sleeves because the pus just keeps coming. It's not really pus. It's like...
maybe you were just trying to support the Phoenix Suns.
No, do they wear them?
They might.
I had gauze bandages. So basically my training, I guess it's really not really a medicine cabinet, but I have like a little... box. It's like Civil War. Like if you're doing a Civil War reenactment, that's my medical supply box. Just Band-Aids, a bunch of gauze and wraps. I'm like wrapping them up. I'm like, oh, this is pretty good. So then I actually go to the store. I'm like, they probably have stuff for this. Their aisle for poison ivy looked exactly like my box. I was like, I'm already prepared. I have everything I need. Just some wraps, some bandages, because unless you're breaking a bone or something, you don't need a bunch of stuff in your medicine cabinet. Just wrap it up. It doesn't matter how big the cut is. You could stitch it yourself like Rambo. But my other update though, since I've been working, the 10K is coming up, the Big 10K. I know I said I'd do updates. We went short last week, and go a little bit longer today. But I haven't been giving updates. I just forget. I don't have it on the docket. No room for it. But my watch, Matt, finally says that I'm in good shape. Let me double check because I think that's the terminology. If you listen to the show, I got an updated watch back in like February that has the workouts built in. So I've been doing it. Started out where it measures like your pulse or whatever. People say it's not that accurate. Their website says it is a pretty good guess because if you wear it all day, it compares your workout stuff or whatever. So I started out in poor health. It didn't take long to get into fair health, but then I've been kind of stuck there. Finally made it into good health. And so they said that their good health tracker is basically where most active people are. So I'm wondering if I keep running, if I'll be able to get into that next tier. I don't know what it will say. Great shape? Extreme shape? There's 2 more tiers. The last one, they said, is like for competitive athletes, and they said that very small amount of people ever make it up that high, even if you're competitively training, which, let's be honest, most people are lazy. I probably fall into that, so I'm not going to be training super hard to get into the higher one, but I am curious to what comes after good. So maybe it's been taking me like however many months, March, April, May, June, so 4 months, maybe a little bit longer. We'll see if I can keep that going. That'll be my motivation to not stop after the 10K this year, because I dropped off last fall. So that's my update there. Keep listening to the show. Thanks for listening. It's our summertime, probably a little bit crazy, probably lost some fans, maybe gain some new ones with this show. But as always, if you have any comments, write them in. We'll talk about them. And I just want to see transparency in the sports I watch. None of this hidden, unwritten rules like baseball, because that stuff just doesn't make sense. So thanks for listening, and we'll see you next week.